Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. John here, as always, with George Batista. We are having a discussion right beforehand. Actually, it was almost like an episode right before an episode about a completely different subject, social media, and it's. But you know what? It could probably fit into this too. Deficiencies, nutrient brain deficiencies. But today we're going to be discussing, can nutrient deficiencies hinder your creativity? And as always, George Batista is with us on Sunday nights, and he is a wellness coach. And as always, remember, he's not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. And I'll flash this
He is the
here.
love doctor.
Love doctor. But these statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This program is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure or prevent any disease. Please seek the advice of your doctor. And now for truth. Um, I always like to say that. So one of the discussions that we talked about right before we went live, which I'm kind of gonna revisit real quickly because it was a good conversation, and it's about consuming. And I think when we're dealing with food, consumption of foods that are not good for you, I think also can lead to the creative process being hindered, but also um, overindulging on social media with nonsense, with things that really have nothing, no, people scroll, and I did a whole show on this, on the type of user that's out there, right? There's the casual user, very, very casual user. They show up every once in a while just to see how people are doing. They like a few posts. They never post anything. If they do, it's a post of a party that they went to. Very, very, very little. Then you have people that consume a lot. They just go on there. They like. They comment. They could be either in the haters or they can be lovers. It doesn't matter. They're just consumers. They just go there for consuming. They don't create. Then there's the creative people. They're out there creating content, putting content out there, and engaging with people. And then you have the people that do it for work. People who actually work in the industry, who have who purposely develop content for a specific purpose, and who also do consulting like I do, and all these kinds of things. So these are where you kind of fall, where you can fall into, right? And I think with food, which we're going to be talking about today, and supplements and nutrition, you kind of fall into that category as well. You can say the person that um, eats whatever, doesn't really think about it, um, doesn't really. I've had conversations with people, adults, by the way, not just young people my age, where I'll say something about like seed oils, and they'll be like, "Oh, really? What is that?" And these are the ones that consume very little on social media because
Right.
it's all over social media, right? So they fall into the category of really just not knowing.
Right.
They do not know, and they probably don't have any interest in knowing until maybe their bodies start, breaking down, and then the doctor will probably not tell them anything about nutrition because they don't really study that, but maybe they'll learn something along the way and get a little bit more educated. Then you have people that are kind of aware, and they're buying foods that say heart friendly, all natural,
Yeah.
and they're the ones that think they're, well, no, I just drink soy milk by what's that company that makes it?
Silk. Yeah.
Silk soy milk. That's all I drink. And my vegetables, I get my vegetables from the supermarket. And I get my meats from the supermarket, all that. And all my products say all natural, 100% natural, you know, and they are under the impression that they are educated, you know. Then you have number three, where it's where I fall into, where you do study, you understand what seed oils are. You understand that all natural is not all natural. You understand why they can actually say that, what
Right.
gives them the permission to say things like that. And you actually read labels. You can understand labels. You understand ingredients. You can really and you educate yourself. And you're not great at it, but you're well enough, know enough to know what not to eat and feel good, and you know what supplements to take. And then there's the last person, that's George. They devoted their life to studying about nutrition, and he's used it on himself to make himself well. His all his issues that he's had. I grew up with him. He was always, he had allergies, he had a bad back and everything, all gone. And because he dove in to the to that world and got as much knowledge and is still consuming that information. And then you can have people that are, um I wouldn't say doctors, but I would say people that kind of do the same thing but become doctors, maybe a chiropractor, Dr. Berg and
Right.
Dr. Cola and those kinds of people. What's the guy, Gary Null, that
Yeah.
you've been following, and they have full careers based on how, because they really got in there. And George is heading in that direction as well. So I think that these are the spectrums of both the social media and the food, and somewhere between there is where you can figure out where you can where you are. And as an artist, I think it's crucial that you find out where you are on both, because I see artists and there, and if you're an actor and you're consuming, I don't know, cooking videos, or you're just looking at things online that are just wasting your time, you gotta, is it moving the needle forward? Is it inspiring you
Right.
as a performer, as an entertainer and artist? Same thing with food. Do you feel good?
Mhm.
Do you feel good? So there you have it. That's my little opening spiel, and I'm going to turn over to George while I clean my glasses, because I got a little sponge here that's really, a little smudge that I'm going to try to get rid of. Go ahead, George.
Sponge for the smudge.
Yes.
Um, you realize what you were saying. You realize that the triangle for that, for social media and food is like upside down, right? Because most of those people are going to be at the top,
That's right.
the heavy consumers of whether it's social media or ultra processed food. And then it's going to kind of go down all the way to the tiny percentages where it's the John Sotos and the George Batistas and then the Gary Knowles and those folks, right?
Yep.
So and it's interesting because it's funny, there was a doctor I was listening to, actually, was it yesterday, I think, who said, and it just reminded me of something where they said that the amount of people in this world that take supplements and eat right and do these things when they don't have an illness is infant. I mean, it's tiny. The fraction of people that actually consume, right? Because the majority of people, they start doing these things when they have a problem.
Right.
Nobody goes to a nutritionist because they feel good.
Right.
They go to a nutritionist because they're dealing with an issue, or they go into a nutritionist because a doctor told them to go to a nutritionist, right?
Right.
So you think about it now. I guess I'm a little, well, no, I'm not, because I had problems too as a kid, and then nutrition saved me, really, literally. And but so I was kind of in that category as well, but I didn't even realize I was in that category because I was too naive when I was a kid to realize that nutrition was an actual thing, and that it actually could,
Yeah.
and deficiencies is what was the major issue for me, because
Yeah.
once I filled those nutrition deficiencies, everything changed.
Yeah. Because you used to eat a lot of. Your thing was the chocolate donuts or
Entenmann's and yeah,
Entenmann's.
and it was the donuts with the filling.
Yes. Oh
And then
my
it
god.
was, yeah, I ate a lot of that. I had a lot of Entenmann's. I had a lot of pizza, a lot of Chinese food.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing when you're having it once in a while. It's another thing when that's pretty much your steady diet.
Right. Kennedy's fried chicken.
Yeah, exactly. For,
Yeah.
for most of your life. So, but, going into the deficiency problem is deficiency. There's a lot, there's many out there who will say that if you just address nutritional deficiencies in the world, you could probably get rid of more than half of chronic disease.
Yeah, but then how would they make their money?
Well, of course. Well, I mean, it's good in theory.
Right.
It's good in theory. It's a great thing to say, but so it's again, it goes back to you personally doing it for yourself.
Right.
And this is the whole premise of the show that I do is you taking the responsibility and do it for yourself. But when you're an artist and you're out there, a lot of artists are not thinking of this, right? Because they're thinking, okay, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna play, and I'm gonna play the shows, I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do the acting, do the plays, do all these things, and many of them are not thinking of nutrition.
Yeah,
You know,
and I'll say also that I think a lot of them, they're not thinking with nutrition. But they do, they actors in particular. I think female and young male actors, they want to look good, so they work out.
yes,
Just
yes,
working out does not mean that you're healthy if
right,
you're eating poorly.
right.
And I think that's where it becomes really challenging for artists, especially young artists who are trying to stay active in the business. So anyway,
Yeah,
I'm
so
going to ask you some questions, but you go ahead.
yeah, and feel free to chime in. So we're going to talk about deficiency, and this can apply to anyone, not just the artist. We're gearing it towards artists, obviously, because John and I are artists, but this can apply to everyone as well. One of the things that we talk about in terms of being an artist is the creative process, and you have to try to have the clearest mind possible to be able to create in your art. So to me, deficiency with artists specifically affects two major things. It's the clarity of thought. And in that, you have cognition, you have memory, you have all these things, right? Because even actors have to remember their lines. People in plays have to remember their lines and things like that. And then you have fatigue. And sometimes they go hand in hand, right? Because
Mm.
fatigue can actually lead to cognitive issues and stuff like that. So you have the
And
fatigue
I
portion.
grow fatigue
Right, exactly.
of this.
So the fatigue piece is really right because the number one thing that people go to the doctor for is fatigue. That's the
Really?
number one. Yes, that's the number one thing that, when you look at doctor appointments as a whole, it
Yeah,
is fatigue.
fatigue.
Fatigue. Yeah. Chronic
That-
fatigue, right?
yeah,
Having
yeah,
fatigue
yeah, yeah.
for a long time. So, that's a thing.
Wow.
So when we look at, deficiency, well, the question would be, okay, so why is deficiency such a problem? Right? Can I just eat a good diet and get, all my everything that I need? Well, hundreds of years ago that was possible. Unfortunately, it's
Yeah.
no longer possible to do
In
that.
theory, it's good, but
In theory, it's good, yes. And all the studies, even the agricultural studies and everything have shown that. So when you look at the soil, okay, from I'll give you some statistics here, just some basic statistics of some vitamins and minerals, right? If you look at calcium, well, from 1975 to 97, we have 27% deficiency in calcium. 1975 to 97, 37% deficiency in iron. Same range, vitamin A, 21% deficiency, vitamin C, 30%, and protein, 30 to 50% deficiency.
good Lord.
And that's just in the soils.
Wow.
So again, it's a problem. It's a huge problem. And the majority of people around are not going to address it through nutritional supplementations because they don't even know what to look for. So they're going to think, well, I'm just eating. And then when something breaks down and something happens and they get a symptom, well, then that's when it starts to become addressed. But it's already kind of late at that point. So now you have to address the deficiency
Yeah.
and, that type of thing. So
And
it's
it's also,
possible.
isn't it also harder for now your body to replenish the thing that you've been beating up, your body? Because I mean, people will say, well, I changed my diet. I don't know why I'm not getting better or I'm not losing weight or something. But, you think of how many years it took you to get to the point where you got yourself to. and it's not going to be an overnight thing. You might have to take a year, 2 years of actual real discipline actions in order to just get back to a healthy state. The body is an amazing thing. The body is always trying to repair itself. The body is
Yes.
always trying to fix itself. Even when you put garbage into it, it has to put it somewhere. Like, so when you're eating, and you can go more into this, but like when you're eating like sugars or unnatural, refined sugars, it doesn't recognize certain things. It doesn't recognize it as food, so it's got to put it somewhere. So it's going to put it in your ass. It's going to put it in your belly. It's got to shift it somewhere because it doesn't even know what the hell it is because it's not real.
Right.
So think about it. If you're eating like cheese, for instance, do you know that there are cheese in on the shelves that are not cheese? They're not cheese. There's no cheese in them. They're called cheese, but there's no cheese. There's no milk. But what is cheese? What is cheese? What makes cheese? Right? It's milk, milk, butter, and
Yeah.
then churning
Yeah.
it. Right?
Yeah.
And then there's some other little additives that they add into it to make cheese.
Yeah.
But there's no cheese.
Right.
So,
Right.
the body is eating this stuff and say, well, what is this plastic thing you just shoved into your mouth? Now it's got to figure out where it's going to put it. And unfortunately, it puts it in places that are really damaging because
Right.
later on, and again, I'm not a doctor. This is all scientific stuff that I've looked at and I've seen myself, and I've seen other doctors, very well-known doctors, talk about this, including RFK, as well. So I think that that's part of the challenge between what was 100 years ago and what is today.
Right.
We just don't have the clean soil, like George said, and we also now are making up stuff, and just in the machine. What is it? Just say it's cheese. Make it in cheese. Make it look like cheese and put it
Yeah.
into plastic I mean, think about it. It's first of all, it's not even real.
Right.
I don't know why I'm so hung up on this cheese thing, but it's not even real. And how is it wrapped? It's wrapped individual, and they made this like such a big deal. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Each slice individually
Individually
wrapped.
wrapped.
Like that was a great thing. What is it wrapped in? In plastic. So plastic is so toxic to the body, and it seeps into the foods, and it seeps into. If you have a plastic container and you put it in the microwave, just just give your go like this. It's the same thing. Don't bother. It's horrible what happens with plastic and how it goes into the food. So the cheese is now, you got the fake cheese wrapped in the plastic, and then all the slices are in a bigger plastic. So you have to open up a plastic to get to the plastic to eat the plastic. They got you. They got us because I ate those by the
Oh yeah. I
by
mean,
the
it was in
gallons,
every sandwich I ate
by
when
the
I was
ton.
younger.
I ate those. So I remember opening those things up. That nice soft thing. Oh, this is
Yeah.
good. I wrapped it up. That first flap,
Yeah.
and then that second one that it just falls right over. It's so
Yeah.
nice and so
Yeah.
pleasant, and that's what they want. They want you to have that experience. Unfortunately, they didn't put any real food in
Exactly.
there, and yeah.
And so what ends up happening with the body is you have to look at it, look at it from the view of the body. The body
And
says, okay,
please, if you really think, no, I'm kidding.
if you look at it from, God, if you look at it from the view of the body, right? The body has the basically the one mission to make sure that it has whatever it needs to survive. Well, if it's deficient, most of the vitamins and minerals that you would have in your body serve more than one purpose. They serve many purposes.
Right.
Sometimes they've 400, 500, 600 different types of purposes, like magnesium, for example. Well, your
Oh,
body,
man.
if you don't have enough of those things,
Magnesium is so
oh,
huge.
forget it. No, magnesium is we'll get into it, but
Yeah.
so now you're deficient. So then when you do take in the what little amount of that vitamin or mineral, the body has the decision to make. What is it going to do with what it has? Because it's not gonna have enough for to run all these enzymes. So what is it going to? So it's going to, and this is the intelligence of the body. It's going to say, and this is called triage theory. And basically, the body says, well, what do I need to survive right now? If this body doesn't have this, it will die.
Mm,
So it takes the nutrients and it makes sure that it has enough for the survival of the organism. And the rest, if it doesn't have it, well, so be it. Vitamin K, perfect example. Vitamin K it does a lot of things, but it serves two main purposes. One, it clots your blood, right? The other one is it takes calcium, it metabolizes it, makes sure that it doesn't end up in your arteries.
mm,
So what happens if you don't have enough vitamin K? Well, it's going to say, okay, well, we need vitamin K for blood clotting because if he gets cut, he dies.
right,
But if he has calcification in the artery, he's not going to die now. He
right,
may die in 20 years of 30 years of arterial calcification.
right. It's just
So,
trying to prolong and trying to keep the body surviving as long as it possibly can with
exactly.
whatever you're
So
putting
that's
into it.
that's the whole theory.
Brilliant.
And this
Excellent.
theory has been proven by Dr. Bruce Ames. And basically now the body's going to ration it. It's going to put it to the
Yeah,
survival proteins and the rest, well, if you don't have it, too bad.
right,
So that's what it does. Okay, so people have to understand that there's a recommended daily allowance and then there's an optimal daily allowance, and it's
right,
two different things. So that's why the nutrition piece is important, because again, if fatigue is something that is a side effect of not having enough nutrition, well, you'll be fatigued and you won't be able to create as the artist, but you may not die. You'll just have long-term fatigue. But as long as you have everything for survival, that's what it's going to care about.
right. So this this fatigue as an artist is really really, I mean, that is because there's nothing more um exhausting as an artist than thinking,
Yes.
and I'm not talking about the actual, let's say if you're a musician, I'm not talking about the playing. The playing is wonderful. The playing is the dexterity of your fingers, your body, whether you're drumming, your timing, the coordination. That's the playing part of it, right? And before you get to that point, there's a lot of practicing involved, right? So you're being driven by that element, by
Right.
just the fact that it's joyous and you love it and you're making music and it's great. So you're working on the dexterity of your fingers, the coordination, the timing, all those things are you're working on. And then at some point, you're like, oh, I want to write something. I want to come up with a thing
Right.
because now it's, if you're a songwriter, for instance, if you're an actor, you're acting, you get the script, you study the script, you go, you do your lines, you work it out. But what if you want to start writing, you want to create? But even as an actor, you have to also think, well, what is this person, and
Right.
what is this character that I'm playing? And that energy, that constant energy of focusing on how am I going to say this line? And then artists just in general, you're always second guessing yourself. So you second guess, I'm going to say this line like this, these pretzels are making me thirsty, right? That's from Seinfeld. And then you say it again, these pretzels are making me thirsty. These pretzels are making me, that constant mental energy that you're putting into how you're going to say it, your own mind making you second guess yourself, the reactive part of that says, no, that's not good, that's not good, that's not good. There is so much energy that you're burning there.
Right.
And this is why the fatigue on the average Joe that works in an office feels. Can you imagine the artist that, on top of the fact that they probably are working in an office or they're probably doing other jobs while they do their art, now they have this other element of this thing that really has no, being an actor is, it's insane, right? It's not a, it should not be a thing, right? But it is a thing.
Yeah.
We are given, I mean, think about this, what an actor has to deal with, right? We have a scenario, there's a story. We are told that we are they considered to pretend to be this person. We are pretenders, right? We get hired to pretend. Then they give you this script and you have to now live this life of this person that's a pretending thing.
Right.
You have to do it in front of people filming it, and you have to convince yourself, those people, and the audience, and wherever you're doing it, that now you are no longer the guy you were before. You're no longer you as a person. You are now this person, and now they want everyone to believe that you are now this person. That alone is so intimidating and so draining of mental energy,
Right.
that the nutrients that you're taking in are even more important. This is why he was saying about the recommended, you know, and why you got to do more, like vitamin C. You got to do more magnesium. You got to do why, and at a certain time, B1 is another one that's really big. So anyway, I'll turn it over to you. But I'm just thinking with all the things that go into your mind. And you and I, George and I were in a band together. We played a bunch of shows. We recorded records and stuff. Think about all behind, backstage waiting to go on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? All that, it's like you're excited to go on, but
Yep.
you're also terrified to go on.
Yep.
You also don't know if anybody's going to be out there. You also don't know if people are going to even like what you're playing. You like all the songs, or do people like the songs? I don't know. Is my guitar going to stay in tune? Am I, what's going to go on? All that stuff. And then added on top of it, there's other things that go on. So it affects it. It's very, very important. And I'm glad we're doing this episode.
No, absolutely. And again, it's like you said, the actors, it's also the musicians, the guys that are on tour, the
Yeah.
guys that are, playing all these shows. You and I played shows. Sometimes we played them at, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning because everything was so delayed, right? All the bands and all this type of stuff.
Well, that's another
You,
thing. Yeah. If you're
yeah,
going on at 10 o'clock, that's a joke.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you've got to be mentally and physically ready for that. So I want to hit um, some of the the biggest deficiencies that are out there, and some of them are more common. And then I'm going to also highlight, and we can discuss back and forth, the ones that I think are the most important. But there's some main deficiencies that are out there, and then as we go through them, you'll kind of get the idea of why they can affect an artist, why they can affect the mind and the body and stuff like that. So when you look at the big deficiencies, the first one and the most prevalent around the world is iron. Right now, part of the reason why iron is such a problem, it's not necessarily a United States or an industrialized world problem. It's more of like a third world problem, right? Because iron deficiency really is most prevalent in those poor countries, in those places that's starving, malnutrition, stuff like that, right? And it's because they just don't get enough of the food to sustain them, right? That's just the amount of food that they're getting. That's a whole different ballgame. But then you have iron deficiency in terms of United States and these types of things, where we get more food than we can ever need, right? But you can still have deficiency. Why? It's because of how we eat and the lifestyle that we lead.
Right.
Now, we're not starving in this country, but yet we can be iron deficient because we are so heavily consuming a processed diet that
Right.
your body is just not getting enough of the iron that it needs. Or you can also have a deficiency if you are on such a strict diet. For example, vegans and vegetarians, they can be on the borderline of being iron deficient and anemic and stuff like that
Now,
because of that.
I want to talk about that for a second, because I have vegan friends,
Yes.
and they will fight you
Mm-hmm.
if you tell them that they're not getting enough iron, that they do get enough iron, and they'll name all the things that they get iron from.
Right.
Now I don't know what they're doing physically in order to prove that they have iron, that they,
Right.
know what I mean? Like, they may not be, because iron is what, you can feel weak, and I think that's the fatigue part of it can come into play as well. So there's a lot of different things, but what would you say? Okay, if a vegan is watching this right now, which I know they're not. But if a vegan is watching this right now, we don't get a big vegan audience,
Right.
surprisingly. Um, but if we do, if what would you say is what they should be consuming to get iron, putting
Okay.
aside supplements?
Right. Exactly. And we can go either
Food.
way. We can go food and supplements or however you want to do it. Okay. So when we look at iron, well, first of all, let's look at what iron does, right? It produces hemoglobin. Okay. And, which is the protein in your red blood cells that carries oxygen, right? I mean, think about that for a second. Carrying oxygen, that right
That
in
seems
right
like a big job.
yeah, it's a big deal. So if you don't have enough iron, or if, you're iron deficient, for example, obviously weakness, fatigue, shortness of breath, all those things are can be. And again, for the artist, that's the big one, right? Because those things can wreak havoc on the artist. Now, for vegans and vegetarians, yes, you can get iron if you are a vegan and vegetarian. You have to be smart about it, though, okay?
Yeah.
Because this is where you have to heavily go into like the greens, because the greens, the spinach, the broccoli, your green leafy vegetables, those are going to contain the most iron in terms of the vegetarian
Ah,
side of
okay. So
things.
that
Okay.
would be their okay.
Yes. If you're a vegan, but you're vegan, you're drinking soda and potato chips and you call yourself a vegan, well, that's not,
Right.
you know
Yeah,
what I'm
I have
saying?
people that are vegetarians and they just eat like they're not vegans, they're vegetarians, but they'll eat like cheese. And
Right.
that'll be all that they
Right.
consume as far as and pasta. So
Yeah,
they
I
have
have
no.
met I have met many vegetarians who are iron deficient. Okay.
Let me ask you one quick question
Yeah,
about
yeah. Good.
the type of deficiency or the type of iron.
Hmm.
Is there a different type of iron in like those types of vegetables than there is in like let's say a steak, a nice
It's
steak,
there is
grass
a there
fed.
there is a different type of iron as well as how it's metabolized and stuff like that. But if you consume enough of the, like, for example, the amounts is going to vary, right? So the amount of iron in a steak is going to be really really high versus the amount of iron that you have to consume in a
Maybe
in
like 20
greens.
bowls of broccoli
Right,
to one
exactly, to
steak.
equal the amount
Right.
of
This is
iron. Okay.
probably what's happening is with the deficiency in iron in vegans and vegetarian or vegan.
Exactly. So they have to consume more, and I mean, and again, they can do it. It's the same argument they do with protein, right? They'll argue till they're healed. Well, I don't need to eat meat to get enough protein. And in a technical sense, yes, they can get enough protein. They just have to consume a lot more of those protein foods on the vegan
Right,
side
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
to
like
to
also
equal.
beans too. I think they mentioned beans
Right,
and
beans are extremely high
nuts,
in good
different
protein and
types of
stuff.
nuts. Some
Yeah.
nuts are really good, but some nuts are actually pretty bad. You got to be
Right,
careful with,
absolutely.
like
And then,
peanuts.
and again, iron deficiency, there could also be other reasons for you're iron deficient. If you don't have enough copper, you can actually become iron deficient because copper is one of the things that opens the door to iron to in the first place. It works with iron. If you are if believe it or not, John, pathogens, viruses, and even cancer consume iron.
Mm,
They consume iron in your body. You can actually be deficient from a severe virus.
right.
If you really get to a part where you're really, really sick, it consumes a lot of iron. So those things can also lead you to deficiency. Now that could be short term,
Yeah.
but it can happen. So, but again, iron. And by the way, John, I don't know if you know this. The thing about iron, 80 years ago, when they looked at iron deficiency around the world and they said, wow, we have so much iron deficiency. Well, why don't we fortify our cereals
With
with iron? So what did they do? They actually took iron shavings. This is very true. They took shavings of irons when they started making the cereals at that time and actually put iron shavings into the cereal. Okay. Now, here's the problem with that. Okay. Number one, Dr. Thomas Levy did a great experiment on this. He took the actual cereal, he took a magnet,
I was gonna say.
and he did, and the cereal was magnetic.
Oh my god.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, if you are consuming iron and you
Is
are
this
not,
current or is this not?
it's still no, it still goes on. It still goes on. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, if you are consuming iron and you are not iron deficient, that's a problem because then it can lead to toxicity. It
Right.
could actually lead to iron overload.
Oh
There's a
yeah.
lot of people who have asked me throughout the years, well, my doctor said I was low on iron, so should I start taking an iron? Did he say you were anemic? No. Well, then you're not going to take iron unless he
It's gonna
actually
go way
says
too
you're
high,
anemic.
and you can do a lot of damage.
Exactly. So
Right.
you have there's iron is funny in that way.
Yeah, you
You
got
know,
to
so if
be very
so
careful.
if you're eating a good diet, if you're eating a really really good diet on both sides, whether you're vegan or not, you can pretty much get enough iron in your diet to the point because the iron is so prevalent in the world, including with the fortification or whatever you want to call it in the food,
Right.
that you can get enough iron.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one of the things. But again, if you don't have it, it can lead to it can lead to head fogginess. It can lead to fatigue and all that. If you're an artist, that's going to be a problem. So if you have those symptoms, you go to your doctor, get it checked, and see if there's any issues in your iron and your ferritin scores. That's what holds the iron. All these things. Okay, you make sure that you're not deficient in that.
So let's say someone goes to the doctor. What is a question? They have like fatigue, or maybe their iron is low, but they don't know what it is, but they feel tired and run down. What is some of the questions that they should, or just one main question that they should ask a doctor to look for, or or just what they need, or what they want the doctor to do for them?
Well,
Because
the doc,
theoretically, the doctor, we don't work for the doctor. The doctor is working for us,
right,
right?
right,
They're employed by either the insurance company that we pay,
right.
um, and so what do you
Well,
say to that?
I mean, if I go to the doctor tomorrow and I tell them, doctor, I've been fatigued for the last month, and my head's foggy. I'm going through all this, right? The first thing they're going to do is they're going to run a million tests, and they want to see the blood panel, right? So they're going to run iron, they're going to run thyroid, right? They're going to run your basic B vitamins, right? They're going to run pretty much all the things that involve energy production in your body, right?
Mhm.
And those are three main ones that involve energy production. If those things are normal, then they're going to say, well, then they're going to look at, okay, well, I'm sure they'll do a bunch of other tests as well, but they're gonna say, well, what's going on in your life? Are you stressed? Are you, that type of thing? Because stress obviously can lead to fatigue. If your job is stressful every single day, yeah, that's can be fatiguing as well.
Right.
But so even before you get into the conversation, they're going to want to run a million tests on you. Okay,
Yeah.
which is fine. You let them do that. So you want to know where your numbers are. Okay,
Right.
but the problem is when they run a million tests and they don't find anything,
Right.
and that happens so often. But you know that there's something off.
Right. Now, is it because a lot of these doctors, and I've heard this from, we go to a functional medicine doctor, and they'll run tests that are standard doctors
Right.
don't run.
Correct.
It's out of pocket. It's cost a little bit more, but you get a slew of different things that they testing for everything,
Right.
and you have all these metrics on where your body really is and all that. And you can really zone in on where the problem is, especially if you go to a really good doctor who can, give you a good diagnosis after looking at all that. So, what when they miss something, like iron, for instance, what else should they be looking at, as far as not the doctor, because the doctor is just doing what the doctor does. But if someone said, "Yeah, go to the doctor," let's say an artist, right, and a musician,
Hmm.
I've been playing all these gigs and I'm kind of tired. Oh, well, you're probably just playing too many gigs. Yeah, I'm 20, I'm 25, or I'm 27 years old, or
Right.
whatever. Even whatever. I mean, any age. I mean, I'm my age right now. I could play gigs every night if I had to. You know what I mean? I'm not
Right.
gonna feel like, ugh, But if they're feeling that way, and they go to the doctor, and the doctor does all the tests that they normally do, and they don't find anything, what's the next step for that artist?
Well, the next step is I mean, I'm assuming that before they go to the doctor, they're looking at their lifestyle, right?
Right.
Because if you're not sleeping, for example,
Right.
or you're playing late gigs every night, and then you're getting a couple hours sleep, and then you're on a plane and you're not getting, that type of thing. Of course,
Right.
adrenal fatigue is another thing. Okay,
Right.
that's adrenal fatigue is when your body is so exhausted, has been running 1,000 miles an hour. After a while, your adrenals, which are on your kidneys here, they secrete all these hormones, and they help to run your mitochondria, right?
Mhm.
It that is also a thing. It's
Right.
also a thing. And now, again, there's things you can do to help that. But it's got to be a plan of two things. It's got to be, what are you doing in your life that could be possibly leading to that? The sleep, the food, the stress, right? The
Right.
lifestyle, all those things in combination with, let's take a look at the tests, the vitamins, the minerals, all these things. Okay. There's something off there. There's something that's not happening. And sometimes it's a combination of both, or sometimes it could be one or the other. If the numbers are okay, then most likely it's something that you're doing or eating. You could be
Mm.
eating something that is also not agreeing with your digestive system, that is making you tired.
Mm.
Are you lactose intolerant? Things like that, giving you headaches.
Right.
So there's some detective work that has to be done in there. This is
Yeah.
why I suggest, like, artists and people keep a diary, right? Keep a diary of their day, of the days. How long were they fatigued? When did it start?
Right.
Okay. And
How
when
much
you wake
sleep
up,
did they get and
right. When you woke up, were you exhausted when you woke up? What did you eat that day? What
right.
time did you go to sleep? And I know it could be a pain sometimes because you got to kind of document a lot of it. But once you do it for a while, you'll start to see clues that you can circle and say,
Right.
this
Something
thing here,
here.
there's
Yeah.
something here. So
Yeah.
that's where you have to be a little bit of a detective with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I do remember when Godzilla fought mitochondria in that, and that was one of my favorite films growing up, the Godzilla film. Um,
Um,
so I did want to go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So do you want to stay on iron, or do you want to keep moving?
Well, what I wanted to talk about a little bit also
Oh,
is um the I when you talk about no, let's move on because I think we covered that really well.
okay.
Yeah, I think that
The
yeah, let's
other
move on.
the other I mean, there's a few of them here, but I'm going to get to, like, the really really important ones that I feel are a big deal. Okay, vitamin D deficiency.
That's a big one.
That is huge. Okay, and you hear it now. Doctors are talking about. I mean, the fact that mainstream doctors are now putting people on vitamin D on a regular basis shows you that
Right.
it's a big deal, because for them to actually do that is big.
Yeah, because
So
they don't
again,
even know what that is. I
exactly.
hear that there's this thing, and it's like a letter. It's a vitamin, and then there's a letter, and there's all of them. There's a lot of different vitamins, and then there's a letter afterwards. Vitamin, I think it's A. There's vitamin B, but there's like B1. There's all
Right.
these Bs.
Right, exactly. And the problem is that when you don't have enough vitamin D, D3, it's going to affect your immune system to the point where it can actually start to make you feel run down. You're more susceptible to viruses. So if you're on tour, if you're out there doing, as artists, or doing plays, or whatever the case may be, you're going to be more susceptible if you're vitamin D deficient.
Right.
You're if you notice, here's a clue. Okay, just simple clue. If you notice that you're getting sick a lot, right? I get 2 or 3 really bad colds and it hits me really bad, or I get a summer cold, right? And you haven't checked your vitamin D, you gotta check it,
Mm,
because most likely your vitamin D is in the toilet.
mm.
And it's an absolute correlation between the amount of vitamin D that you have in your body and the fact and how susceptible you are to things out there.
Now we get vitamin D from the sun. Obviously, everybody talks
Correct.
about that. Um, but can we get enough vitamin D from the sun in order to handle the thing, or do we need a supplement, or it depends on where we are?
It's there's Okay, so there's nuance to that. Okay, so it depends on a few things. It depends on where you live, just all year round. Number one, it depends on your skin pigmentation.
Mhm.
Okay, and it depends, obviously, when you're outside, how long are you out there. So if you take a look at all three, right, where you live. I live in New York, so in the summertime, I'm outside a lot, doing things with my daughter, or just doing things in the garden, all that. So I get a lot of vitamin D during that time, specifically between 11 and 2, because that's when you're going to get the most. That's
The
when the
best.
sun is the strongest, right?
Right.
So in that time, you can get maybe, if you get 30 minutes of vitamin D exposure, for example, that's going to be about 15 to 20,000 units right there of vitamin D. You're
Oh,
going to get a nice little boost there, right?
yeah.
So so that's a big thing. However, when the winter comes, you don't get that. So in New York, for example, if I don't take any vitamin D in the winter, vitamin D plummets. Why? I'm not outside anymore. Now we got coats on, right? And, so it becomes a stressor. And then your immune system has to use whatever vitamin D you've got to deal with all the stressors.
Right.
So vitamin D plummets. So,
Mm,
so location is a big deal. So those in the tropics, for example, they're going to get vitamin D year round
right.
because they're outside a lot more.
Right.
So where you live, number one, is a big deal. And
Wow.
there's an actual thing where it says those that live in those tropic areas, they're less susceptible to cardiovascular disease and other types of diseases because their
Yeah.
vitamin D is more efficient, right?
Right.
So that's the first thing. Second thing is skin pigmentation. The darker you are, the harder it is for vitamin D to penetrate.
Okay.
Okay, it has to do with it, right? So you're going to need more as even a darker person like myself. I'm going to need a lot more exposure to those rays to get the same that, let's say, a person who's Caucasian, who's really really white,
Right.
gets, right? Now, yeah, I'm not susceptible to burning as they are, but I need more vitamin D because of
Gotcha.
because of that. So that's number two. And number three, it's just, again, how long you're actually outside. So 20 to 30. Now, if you're in the tropics and you get burned easily, what I would recommend is, this, I used to do this. I do this when I go to Florida sometimes. I will go outside, like if I'm at the beach or whatever, and I'll be outside for 15, 20 minutes with no lotion because I want
You
the
want
rays
to,
to penetrate.
right.
Then once I'm done, then I will either put lotion on because the lotion is going to block the D, right?
Right.
So I want to get enough D in that time, and then I'll put the lotion on to protect my skin because I don't want to be there for hours, obviously, and
You
get
don't get
burned.
burned. Right.
So that's a way you can navigate it if you're out there, and you're susceptible to D,
Okay.
to getting burned, for example.
So skin pigmentation, that was the name of my band in college. Um, no, but I wanted to ask about vitamin D and how it's the type of vitamin D.
Yes.
Because let's say you go to the pharmacy and you buy a bottle of vitamin D from Solgar
Hey.
or from Nature's Poop or whatever the company is.
Nature's
Wha-
pantry.
Yeah, one of those. Um, does it matter?
Yes, it does. It
Okay, so
matters because
what should they
they
be
they should
looking
be.
for?
I mean, most people and most even doctors are hip to this. Most of them. It's D3. It's what's called the activated form of D.
So it
You
has
will
to be
see,
D3.
yeah, it
Okay.
has to be D3. You see D2. The reason why that makes a difference. So, for example, if you get D from the sun, if you look at it in a technical sense, it's D2. So what happens is you get it, your cholesterol metabolizes the D, then it runs through a whole cycle and it has to be converted. It gets converted in the liver, it gets converted in the kidneys, it goes through a whole conversion process and it becomes D3 in your
Oh,
body. And that D3 is what is the activated form that starts to do its job, right?
hmm,
Well, if you take in D2, then your body has to convert it. But if you take D3, it's already in the conversion, it's already converted. There are people in this world who cannot convert certain vitamins.
right.
They have a problem. They have a polymorphism that doesn't allow them to convert vitamins. So they
They need
have to
to,
take. Huh?
yeah, they need to download like a better driver to convert.
God help
Um,
people who listen to this and listen to your nonsense. Like my wife, for example, has that problem. She has a folate conversion problem. Now she didn't tell me this when we got married. So if I would have known this, I don't know if I would have married her. But
how can you?
I was like, why would I marry somebody who cannot convert folate?
People just
Wh-
hide that fact. It's
I
sad.
know it's a big thing. So if you're on a date, ask if the person can convert folate.
Can you convert?
But so my wife has to take in the activated form of folate, for example, in order for it to work properly. So it bypasses the thing that has to convert. Because otherwise, what will happen? Cognitive decline
Wow.
and high lead, high heavy metals. You
She
know,
married you, so the cognitive that decline must have started years
well, yeah,
ago,
when you're marrying me, forget about it.
way
So,
before she met you. Um,
yes,
but so D3 is
D3 is the
the
best
best.
form
Yeah, you should just get it.
to take fake and and again everybody's going to be different because body weight is another thing. If you're a huge person, for example, if you're like a wrestler or a bodybuilder, you're going to need more D3 than a
Right.
person who's thin. So that also makes a difference. So take D3 with food because it's fat soluble. It metabolizes with fat and it's responsible for thousands of enzymes, including again, if you don't have enough D, fatigue, immune system issues, down to your DNA, all different types of things. For the artist, again, it's going to make a big difference.
So you see D also combined sometimes with like A, or is it no or
K
E? K
or
no,
I mean, you see it combined with typically it'll be combined with K.
it'll say the
Um,
U. What is it called? It's like units. How
yeah,
many?
units. Yeah,
Right.
yes.
Um, and so they do you have to take a certain amount of another vitamin in order to absorb the D3 better, or would it help better?
Well, not necessarily D. D is one of those things you can take alone.
Okay.
Like again, I suggest you take it with food. But if you want to absorb things like calcium, magnesium, K, those things, those are best taken with D together. And a lot of companies have complexes that have all of those things
Right.
because then they'll all absorb together and work together. So they do work together once they're in there, but D is one of those things that you can take on by itself if needed.
Okay.
So
So, what's the next? I know
the
we're
third one and the biggest, probably the one that I think is probably one of the biggest, and it's one of the silent ones. Like iron, we know. D, we know because it's always out there. It's you hear it in the news. You hear all this. By the way, I did hear a doctor once on the news actually say that taking a D supplement doesn't do anything. I almost fell on the floor. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But I think this
he's
was during the
paid. He's
I think
paid
I was
by.
I think this was during the pandemic, so you could understand why. But
Yeah.
the third one, and I think is probably one of the biggest ones, magnesium.
Yes. I knew he was gonna
Magnesium,
say that. Yeah.
it
That
is,
seems to be a big one.
and it's the
I
silent
hear
one
about it all
because
the
a
time.
lot of people, a lot of doctors are still not talking about it. You don't hear it. I actually did a show that said the magnesium deficiency public health crisis.
Mm,
I think it is a crisis. Magnesium is responsible for well over 5 to 600 enzyme reactions in your body. If you don't get enough magnesium, I'll just run through a few of the things that can happen. Okay, fatigue is big, muscle cramps, numbness, seizures, heart rhythm abnormalities, headaches. Okay, all those things, and that's just mild. That's just mild. When you get to like really like severe numbness, tingling, cardiac arrest, okay, other things, apathy, insomnia, depression, all those things. I mean, literally, if you don't have enough magnesium, you can die.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So what I know food is a big contributor to basically not giving us, not well, okay. Magnesium.
Yes.
How can we get magnesium without taking supplements?
You got to eat magnesium rich foods, your legumes, your seeds, your nuts, like Brazil nuts. If you get those Brazil nuts, high in magnesium, okay?
Mm,
You know, there you get some of it in fruit, like bananas, dried apricots, things like that. Vegetables. Keep in mind that the magnesium molecule is at the center of the chlorophyll molecule.
mm,
Chlorophyll is what makes plants green.
right. Oh,
So if you are eating your green leafy vegetables, right, your all your greens, avocados, artichokes, your all that stuff, you're getting a good amount of magnesium. Now you have to eat a lot of it to
right.
get enough magnesium. Even beans, lima beans, black eyed peas, navy beans, pinto beans, those types of things all have magnesium as well.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean,
so
we do that a lot.
yeah, so a lot of legumes, a lot of greens, avocado again is huge. All bananas, all those things. If you're eating those things, you're getting a good amount of magnesium. However,
Now,
the
yeah.
problem is that just the recommended daily allowance of magnesium for adults is like 400 milligrams.
Well, I was just gonna say that. Like, can you eat enough to get the daily dosage? I mean, how much? You know what I mean? Like a full avocado.
Right.
You know, I sometimes will eat of one avocado, just me
The
by
entire
myself,
one?
the entire avocado.
That's
Now,
fantastic.
now I don't get the avocados that you're probably thinking of, those big green ugly ones.
Right, right.
I get the Haas ones, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's little smaller,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I eat a whole one by
That's good.
myself. And
Yes.
Pamela, and I get them at Costco, really good ones. Is does that would that have enough
That
magnesium?
now
Or at
do you
least
eat one of those every day?
no, that's the whole point.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So
So it will give you enough. It will give you enough if you eat that, let's say, and let's say some of the nuts and things like that that
yeah,
day, you'll probably be close to getting the recommended daily allowance. But again, this is daily.
right. I'm glad we're talking about this because remember, you know, I always talk about it and I talk about it on the show. But you know how sometimes I get that thing where I can't, where I'm coughing and it's
Yeah.
like this weird heart kind of, it's just a weird breathing thing that makes me cough. It's like, I don't know. But that I, I'm thinking, I'm almost sure now I'm going to start upping magnesium because I'm definitely, I think everyone is deficient to some degree.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, and I think that it's not in our foods. I don't need a big bowl of green vegetables every single day with an avocado. I
Right.
don't.
Right.
You know, who does? I mean, maybe there's
Exactly.
somebody out there that does. Great for them. I don't. Sometimes I'll eat a burger. That's great protein, but they ain't no magnesium in there,
Exactly.
you know. And so I think now supplement wise, let's discuss this for a second because I think everyone could do with just a daily. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to recommend anything. I'm not a doctor, everyone. I read that thing at the beginning, but let's talk about what is there a specific kind that can be cheaper? Like again, Solgar or Nature's Poo Poo. You know,
I
those
used
that
to
I
take
get
nature's poo poo.
at Walgreens, you know, vitamin section. If you get a magnesium from there, what should we be looking for?
There's many different forms of magnesium. Okay. And they all kind of help with different things, right? So there's some magnesium that are more for the digestive system, actually help you be regular, that type of thing. This is why you have milk of magnesia. That's what there's magnesium in that, right?
Oh, is that what that is?
Yes.
Milk of magnesia is magnesium.
Magnesium. Why do you think that works? Because the magnesium in it makes you go and it actually
But
softens everything.
it can't it makes me think that it's actually not really um that it's processed in a way
Well,
that's not
yeah, there's garbage in it. But what I'm saying is
okay.
that
That's what I'm saying. Okay, but
there
that's
is garbage in it, but there is magnesium in
and
it.
that's one of the
Okay,
reasons why
so if
it
you take right,
regulates.
so if you take certain forms of magnesium, you like let for example, and this is just known. This is nothing controversial. If you're constipated, right? If you're constipated regularly, if you take certain form of magnesium, magnesium citrate, for example, it comes in powder form. You could put it in your juice or whatever. Right? It could help you with constipation. It could actually make you regular. Okay, that's known. Magnesium glycinate is my favorite form of magnesium. Okay, because not every magnesium is absorbed properly. So there's a form of magnesium called magnesium oxide. It's absorbed very tiny, and it's not a good magnesium for it. Glycinate, and the reason why it's amazing. The reason why glycinate is absorbed so well is because when you take a supplement, for example, that contains glycinate, it's magnesium together with amino acid glycine. Okay,
Oh, okay.
magnesium glycinate. It's
Glycine. Oh,
glycine. When your body takes in the amino acid, it's one of the easiest things for your body to absorb because it knows the amino acid. Oh, I need this, right?
right.
Well, it pulls the magnesium in with it. And that's why it's so absorbed. Magnesium glycinate, in my opinion, is one of the best ones if you are deficient in magnesium, that it can actually bring up your magnesium. It's one of the easiest to bring up your magnesium.
Wow. Glycinate
So
was my favorite wrestler. He so okay, so is there a pill form that you would recommend? Because were those two powders that you.
no, I mean, they do have powder, but if yes, magnesium
Now, which is
glycinate.
better? Because I hear sometimes people say the powder, if it's in liquid form, you put it in liquid and you drink it, it may be faster active or something,
If you're getting it from a
or
reputable company, if you're getting it from a good company that doesn't put garbage in it, or flavors and things like that in it,
yeah.
either one is fine. You can get it in powder form or pill form, and you'll be fine with that. Okay, some people like the pill form because it's more convenient. They can take it with them versus the powder. It just depends on your. But if you're getting pure magnesium glycinate from a good company, you're good. Okay.
So wellness resources, I would.
Wellness resources, companies like that have
Yeah.
excellent magnesium glycinate and stuff like that. So,
Kellogg's. I'm just kidding.
and there's other forms as well that are well absorbed, but glycinate, like I said, is my favorite. But at the end of the day, again, the side effects and the big ones, like if you are having heart palpitations, okay, again, any of these symptoms that I go over, you talk to your doctor first, no doubt about it, absolutely.
Right.
But if you are having heart palpitations, talk to your doctor about magnesium. You can be magnesium deficient because that is a sign. Okay,
Yeah.
atrial
That's
fibrillation.
what I have.
A lot of people have that.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
that's what I
I
have.
I even had that in the past years ago, and what's interesting. Athletes are very susceptible to this
Yeah.
because they sweat a lot,
Yeah. They.
right? And they sweat out the magnesium. They a lot of them don't supplement, and eventually, when you're losing magnesium, you get a lot what's called magnesium wasting. That it starts to, you start to get these electrical impulses.
Yeah.
So magnesium can help that. Again, migraines,
Yes.
magnesium has been known to help that as well. And then fatigue, but going back to the artist, if you are fatigued, magnesium, because magnesium is also involved in what's called the electron transfer chain, which basically helps to make mitochondria, which is energy. Magnesium is part of the steps in that process, and it helps with that. Another thing is, what was the other thing I was going to say? I just had something in my brain and it just went out. But yeah, fatigue is the big one, and blood sugar.
Wow.
Magnesium is one of the things that's responsible for making your cells more susceptible to taking in blood sugar.
Oh, wow.
So if you have, if you're getting towards diabetes, or your numbers are getting, higher in terms of blood sugar issues,
Yeah. Yeah.
it could be magnesium again, could be an issue with that as well.
Yeah. I'm thinking about that myself now because that again, being I'm pre-diabetic, but it was over a decade ago, and it's
Right.
not a thing anymore because I changed my diet. But um, that I do feel that magnesium and that train that you mentioned, I think that's what is it?
The electron transfer chain.
Yeah. The electron transfer chain. They were great. Uh, I think that was the first name of Chicago, the band, and then they changed to Chicago. No, I think that has that seems to be the most important.
It is. It's
The most important.
absolutely. And again, I
Yeah,
say it's a silent one because you don't hear a lot of it in the
that's
news.
true.
You
You
don't
don't hear
hear.
about it actually, and
No, and
it's kind of
it's
weird that
and 20 per,
you
I
don't.
think we're like at 27 to 30% of the soil, of deficient the soils in magnesium. We're not getting that. And it's
Right,
so
right.
huge. It's
Yeah,
really, really
that's
huge.
the
So
main
so
thing.
definitely, eating those foods, and if you still feel deficiency, obviously again, after talking to your doctor and stuff like, I mean, magnesium doesn't have any, the major side effect if you took too much magnesium, it's kind of like vitamin C, you'd get some diarrhea.
Right, right.
Okay. That's a fail safe by the human body for kind of getting rid of what it doesn't need.
Doesn't need it.
Right.
Yeah,
But if you take a good magnesium supplement just to make sure that you don't have a gap between
right.
what you're eating and what your body needs, then you should be good.
Is it something that you can take daily?
Oh yeah.
just like
Absolutely.
in the
I
morning.
take magnesium. I take I again, as an athlete and stuff like that and doing a lot, I found myself deficient in magnesium many times. So I make sure that I take an optimal dose for me personally
Right.
of magnesium because it works for me.
Do you get it
And
in
it
powder or do you get the pill
I get it in capsule form.
capsule form?
And again, it's one of those things that a lot of people, there are some people you don't know, again, if you're walking around with a polymorphism like we talked about before, people that can't convert stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's polymorphisms for magnesium, vitamin D, folate, all these things. How do you know if you have that or not? You don't. You have to test for it,
Right.
right? And a lot of doctors don't test for that. So even if you're taking a supplement, or if you're taking if you're eating magnesium and you find yourself still deficient, talk to your doctor and see if maybe they can test
Yeah.
for polymorphism, see if maybe your body's not converting the magnesium, stuff like that.
See if they can make it polylesism, because you definitely don't want
Yeah.
poly more. Um, so this is amazing. We've covered amazing things here. This is something that I'm always very, very interested in, and George's as well, as artists ourselves, creative people, that we have to keep our mind focused. Not only that, but we're parents as well. We're husbands, not to each other. That's weird. But we have wives, and I think it's important for us to really have these discussions, because it bleeds into everything else that we do creatively.
Right.
It's everything else. And you could always talk to someone, and it's really amazing. You could always find the why. You can always find the why. And then if you can find the why, then you can find a solution.
Yes.
And there's always something that can be done about it. And it's so amazing that we have this that you have this knowledge, and that we're able to do that. um, you know it's important. As I talk a lot about the way to happiness on this show, I've talked a lot about it, the 21 precepts. The first one, the first one of the 21 precepts is take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about, and it has different steps. When you're ill, make sure you clean your body, take care of your teeth, get plenty of rest, eat properly.
Yep.
These are all part of just the number one, because if you the way to happiness is having that in place first.
Right.
First, you cannot have a happy existence or a creative existence if your body is in shambles, if you're not properly. And sometimes you may not know why. And go to your doctor. Make sure you get it. Go. Get. Tell them. What are you eating? Make sure you actually are aware of that. Do some research. Follow George's show. George has a wonderful show called Wellness Talks, and he goes over all this stuff. Not to mention that you can message him,
Mm-hmm.
on his show. Just go to georgebatista.com. I'll flash that on here before we head out this evening. Where is it? Boom. And you can ask. He'll give you some suggestions. Again, always ask your doctor. Make sure that you're aware of who your doctor is. And yeah, so this is great. Thank you so much, George. We appreciate it. I think we're gonna do another episode like this, probably sooner than later, because I think there's some more things that we can cover. Um, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to have this knowledge, so this way you can have another tool under your belt. Basically, it's
Yep.
really important. So, all right, friends, want to thank everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you all very much. God bless you all. We will see you all next week, 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Central, as always. For George Batista, I am John Henry Soto. Take care of yourselves. God bless you all. And as always, peace.